Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Happy Friday the 13th. Happy Friday, folks. Yeah, we got a dope show for you. First and foremost, let's talk about the latest development, a big development in the case of the Morgan State University homecoming shooting, as police have arrested a 17-year-old suspect and is looking for an 18-year-old suspect in this shooting. So we'll talk to you about the latest with that. Also, can we talk a little bit about what's happening in the state of Alabama, of how a children's book has been banned because of, well, just check out. I'll wait to tell you. This is wild, absolutely wild. Also, we're going to be checking in with my sister Corinna Denise to talk about how a group of doctors have officially announced a term to justify excessive force by police. And what does that mean for those communities who have been impacted, like Black and Brown communities? We'll talk a little bit about that. And later on, we're going to be checking in with the director of the new Peacock film, Women of the Jury. We're going to be checking in with Mr. Mark Buddington to talk to us about why it's important for women to get involved in legal work and so much more. So stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. We are streaming live right now on various platforms, especially starting with our home platform of blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure you go to our website today, download the app for free, follow us on social media, and most importantly, make sure you give something to add to the pot as we continue to be that space to power us in this digital movement. So again, our website is blackstarnetwork.com. Also, we are streaming live on Amazon. You can find us on your Amazon TV, on your Fire TV, on Amazon News. So make sure you check us out there. We're also on Amazon Prime Video, where you can find us on the Prime Video app under Live TV, then go to News, or find us at Amazon.com under Prime Video, Live TV, then go to News. And you can find for the culture as well as all of the dope programming we have here on the Black Star Network. Now, we're also on Freevee. You can find us there on now under News. So we're streaming there. And we're also streaming on Plex TV, where you can find us as well. So also the social media side, make sure you check us out on Facebook under Roland Martin, as we're there. And we're also on YouTube under Roland Martin. So go to Roland Martin's YouTube page, find us there. We're streaming live. That's where you'll find the dynamic culture crew that's checking in from all around the country, folks. And I'm really, really excited to talk to each and every one of them. The online culture crew always showing their love and support for what we're doing here. So big shout out to everybody that's online. King Fire, I see you. Damon Blissett, I see you. Big brother Willie Frazier in the building. That's right, big brother Willie. Thank you so much. Cindy D, good to connect with you once again. Happy Friday, Robin Welch. Good to connect with you. Karen Kirkwood. Hello, Karen. Hello, Queen. Thank you so much. There we go. The ABX girl is checking in. Hi, ABX girl. The ABX girl. I like that name. I love that name. The ABX girl. Lyric Grayson's Nikki. Good afternoon, Lyric Grayson's Nikki. Thank you so much for tuning in. This Pauline Hurt. Thank you for checking in. Coach Nurse Bay. Hello, Coach Nurse Bay. Thank you, Tiana. Good to connect with you as well once again. And I see more folks are joining us, so make sure you do the same, folks. Again, we are streaming there on Roland Martin's YouTube page, and join us here for the culture crew today. All right, let's jump into the conversation as folks are checking in, man. I had to do a little roll call for many of us, but let's talk a little bit about what's happening with Morgan State University as we've been keeping up on all of the big developments. Yesterday, we talked about the fact that they have announced that they're going to be putting up some sort of barrier. They called it a wall. We call it a fence. But they're going to put up some sort of barrier to keep certain folks from coming onto the space as they're still recovering. The community, the students, the families, the faculty of Morgan State are still recovering from that shooting that wounded four out of those five that were wounded were students of Morgan State, but no one has died. So thank God for that. But that happened on October 3rd during the homecoming celebration. Well, the latest development is now the Baltimore City Police Department has officially announced that they have arrested a 17-year-old suspect in the shooting. Wow, 17 years old has been arrested in the shooting, folks. And it has certainly been a somber moment for the Morgan State University and the city of Baltimore. The teen, who police say had been charged with multiple counts of attempted murder in the case, was slated to be transported and booked into jail today as he was taken into custody in Washington, D.C. Now, let's go back to the first statement, please, Lise. This is the statement from Dr. David Wilson, the president of Morgan, where he makes this point that he said that the Morgan community could now take solace today in knowing that an arrest has been made, and we are one step closer to bringing all of the alleged culprits responsible for the incident that occurred on our campus to justice. This is what President Wilson said in a release statement. Now, that was a 17-year-old that was arrested, but they're still actually looking for another suspect. Now, there are 3 suspects that have been identified in this whole shooting. The first suspect was arrested earlier, just a few days ago. The second suspect, the 17-year-old, has been arrested, but they're looking actually for a third suspect. He has an attempted murder warrant that has been issued for him. He's 18-year-old Jovan Williams. That's his picture there, folks. He faces multiple counts of attempted murder. He's considered armed and dangerous. So anyone who sees him or has information about his whereabouts is asked to call 911. But according to Baltimore Police Commissioner Richard Worley, he said in a statement that the Baltimore Police Department has been working tirelessly on this investigation, into this incident, and are grateful for the many partners that assisted us in identifying and capturing one of our suspects. We will not rest until Williams is in custody. While this arrest cannot undo the damage and trauma caused that day, it is my hope that it can bring some peace and justice to the victims, the Morgan community, and our city. 18 years old, 17-year-old was arrested. Now let's put Jovan Williams' picture back up, please. 18 years old, folks. This is another suspect. And if you are familiar with the culture in Baltimore, unfortunately, folks, this is not unusual. This is not unusual. When you have teenagers, young men who are involved in almost fatal shootings, and I mean, if you're these are attempted murder charges, these are serious charges, serious felonies. So it speaks volumes about where we are. There has been a lot of reaction to this since this announcement has been made. Today, Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott said the city will continue to provide any support needed to the school's campus and called on local and state leaders to address gun reform in an effort to keep firearms away from people who should not have access to them. He said, quote, "As we do every day, the city will continue doing our part to reduce and end gun violence by removing illegal guns and the people who use them off of our streets, while pursuing a comprehensive public health informed violence reduction strategy." He says, however, it continues to be clear that tackling the epidemic of gun violence in our community is going to require significant national action to address the proliferation of guns in our community. Wow. So he's saying this is a gun situation. Folks, I got to take a quick pause, but I want to hear what you have to say as we're talking about 2 young black men. And folks have been asking me, like, what's up with this Black Men Summit you talking about, Farajii? It's because of moments like this. 2 young black men, 17-year-old, 18-year-old, in a spiral, who are already heading one direction. And could you imagine if someone was actually killed during this incident? 17 and 18 years old, all of their lives are gone, just lost. But this is why we are having Black Men Summit, because something has to be done, right? So we're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, folks, I'd love to get your take on this. This is the latest the big developments in this case of the shooting at Morgan State University. What is your take? What are your thoughts on this? Stay with us. We're just getting started here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network. Peace, I'm Farajii Muhammad, host of The Culture. And brothers, we need to talk. There's been much discussion about the state of the Black man in our community, whether it's in politics, education, or in the home. My brothers, we are struggling to lead the way, which is why The Culture will be hosting the Black Men Summit, where we'll be redefining and celebrating Black manhood. This special series will kick off on the 28th anniversary of the historic Million Man March, on Monday, October the 16th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be talking to some of Black America's most prolific, dynamic, thought-provoking Black men activists, scholars, and leaders about our role, our power, and our future. So tune in and join the conversation as an online culture crew member for The Culture's Black Men Summit, redefining and celebrating Black manhood. Starting Monday, October 16th through Friday, October 20th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time each day, right here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
A lot of stuff that we're not getting, you get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. We've been talking about the latest developments in the case of Morgan State University in that shooting that happened during the homecoming celebration on October 3rd, where police have now arrested a 17-year-old suspect in this case, a case that has gotten a lot of conversation going, especially within Black America and within the HBCU community, about the safety of Black schools. But more importantly, it has also created another renewed conversation about violence in the Black community, especially the violence that is perpetuated by young Black men. 17 years old has been arrested and is looking at multiple charges of attempted murder. The 18-year-old, there's an 18-year-old as well, Mr. Jovan Williams, that is actually still on the run. He also is facing multiple counts of attempted murder. He's considered armed and dangerous. So if you come across an individual like who looks like Jovan, let someone know, call 911, and let's bring some justice to those who were wounded in that situation. I just want to correct myself. I said there was a third suspect, but as of right now, no, that I missed. That was incorrect. I do want to make that correction that these are the two suspects that the Baltimore City Police Department is looking at, a 17-year-old and an 18-year-old. These are the two suspects in that shooting at Morgan State University. So I just wanted to make that quick correction there with those facts. But I do want to get your take on this, Drew, to talk to me about what your thoughts are around this issue. As you saw, we played our Black Men Summit promo, and this is exactly why we're in 2023, folks, and we're still struggling. We're still trying to tackle or trying to deal with this situation of violence in our community, especially violence coming from young Black men. So let me go to what you have to say. So many of you are checking in, and I truly, truly appreciate this. You don't like my music? Let's kick it off with your comment. You said the problem is guns. The problem is guns. This is a focus that Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott is putting his attention on to try to urge Congress to put much strict or more strict gun laws into place, so that way certain guns don't come into the hands of individuals like the 17-year-old or the 18-year-old Jovan Williams. So you're saying the problem is guns. Okay, let's see what the rest of the folks say, if they agree or disagree with you on this one. You don't like my music, but I appreciate that, man, for posting that. Tiana, you said, I'm okay with the fence as long as it doesn't look like a correctional facility, talking a little bit about that solution that MSU leadership said they're going to take to try to cut down on any level of violence, especially gun violence in the wake of this tragic situation. That they are going to install, or rather extend, the fence that currently takes up about 5% or so, 5 or less than 10% of the campus. Now they're going to try to extend it, so there is fencing about around 90% of the campus. This is going to be Tiana, this is a $22 million project that the school will ask the state of Maryland. It's been reported that President David Wilson has sent a proposal to Governor Wes Moore of Maryland to see if that can be done, if that can be funded by the state. So we will have to see if that happens. But you're saying that you're okay with the fence as long as it doesn't look like a correctional facility. I say that's fine. The fence is fine. But I think that, that might be a Band-Aid approach to a situation like this versus trying to get to the root cause, or even trying to empower the students and the faculty and the community. You know what I'm saying? Like we want to get to a quick solution, a quick fix. But I'm more concerned about the long haul, that even with the fence, a situation could potentially happen like this, that we have to just change the culture, change the conversation, change how people think about violence. So I hear you loud and clear, Tiana, and I appreciate you for posting. The ABX girl, you said at 17, he should be applying to Morgan, but off to jail instead. That's some real words right there, ABX girl. That's some real word. He should be applying to Morgan, but he's off to his jail. How do you run up on a college campus and you want to commit violence? Wow. Good point. Excellent point there. Cindy D, you said 17 years old. Sadly, not surprised. In some places, it's a felony for a person underage to have a gun. Absolutely. Cindy D, thank you so much. Monkey Confection, you pose a great question, and it hasn't been reported just yet, but you asked, what was the motive? What was the motive? I don't know. It could have been some street stuff. It could have been some, I mean, who knows what the motive is? It could be some he says, she says type stuff, right? But whatever the motive is, for you to have the audacity, the gall to go into a Black college campus during a celebratory weekend when you have women and children and elderly and all types of folks that are on campus, and you want to commit violence, that goes to show, and I think Kamoki Confession, you can agree with me, that goes to show you're not in your right mind. You're not thinking. You're not thinking about the consequences. You're not certainly not thinking about anybody else. And you're not thinking about yourself in the process. Patricia JD checked in, and Monkey, thank you so much for posting that. Patricia JD, you said these are all Black families whose lives are forever shattered. Absolutely, they could be restored. I don't want to think that all hope is lost, but at this moment, yes. Can you imagine the life of that 18-year-old, that 17-year-old, and those 5 people? But it leaves a bad taste in your mouth as a Black college student. And we talked about this last week, where some college students, I'm talking about some of the freshmen, actually decided to kind of take a few days. They left campus altogether to go return back home, wherever their homes are. But they just needed a few days. And would you, as a parent, as an adult, if you're if you're 18 or 19-year-old, told you about this situation, would you want them to go back to campus? Let's just throw that question out there. After hearing about a situation like this, would you want them to go back to campus? I appreciate you, Patricia, for posting that. You don't like my music. You also added, every country has angry young men. Only America has this problem. Well, I don't think just an American problem. I've heard some stories in Europe, in London and in other parts of Europe, where they do have some violence problems. I think violence is such an international thing at this point, right? And again, we can't have a conversation about violence. We can't even have a conversation about guns until we have a conversation about the culture and where we are right now. We got to have a conversation about the culture. Tiana, you said MSU don't need a wall of fence. They need to start checking IDs. Let me ask you this question, Tiana. For a homecoming ceremony, a homecoming celebration, what do you think the purpose of why checking ID? It's a family celebration, right? I think, unless you are trying to keep a database of everybody that's coming in, but that information, I'm thinking, and you tell me if I'm wrong in thinking this, would that information be used after a situation like this happens? You can identify somebody quickly, or is this, tell me your reasoning behind you saying that they need to check IDs? Because again, this is a family situation, community situation. It's a community celebration, so you're going to have a lot of people on campus. Now, are you going to start doing metal detectors when you get into the buildings? Are you going to start doing, checkpoints, outside checkpoints? We've seen that, and like they do at concerts sometimes. They do these checkpoints and stuff. Can you imagine going to your HBCU and you got to go through a checkpoint, and then you go to a PWI and you don't have to go through a checkpoint? Sometimes, here's what I remember saying this years ago, right? I was on CNN one time, just shortly after Freddie Gray was killed. And the reporter asked me the question about, what do you think of seeing police and armored vehicles and law enforcement personnel, at these city locations, trying to make sure that certain spaces aren't violated during this protest, during protests. And I was making a point. I remember making this point saying, we see this, and I'm saying as Black folks, we see police presence at schools every single day. If you go into Black or brown communities, you're not just having school police, you're not just having resource officers, you have the city police, and sometimes you have state police, right? At schools, right? Now, you got to ask yourself the question, as a student coming into these spaces, What goes through your mind? Now, some students can play it off and say, oh, that's just for security purposes. But for others, it feels like, am I going into a detention center? I mean, what am I going to? If this is supposed to be a place of learning, how come the environment doesn't feel welcoming for me to feel like to learn? How come the environment doesn't feel good? So we do got to ask ourselves these questions. As much as we may want like fences and walls, and I'm again not completely against the idea, but I don't want, and I think one person said this yesterday during a conversation, to be a performative measure, to be this thing where you just see it on the outside, but it doesn't really resonate for those on the inside. So I think that's the catch-22 of this whole situation, that you want to make sure that people feel empowered. You want to make sure that people feel safe, but at the same time, you don't want to give the impression that people are going into some space where anything can happen. Let me take one more, and then we got to take another quick pause. I think I saw something from T Blunt. Let me see, T. Let me see. What did you post here, T? You said the FBI need to find these companies that's selling these ghost gun kits that these kids are able to order online. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to track down some of these ghost guns. And I think that's a good point. I think it's just hard to try to track this stuff down. And it's going to be even harder to try to figure out, what this situation is all about, where they're going to go and all of those things. These guns in this country they have a whole network. They go through a lot of different hands. And that's why they call them ghost guns, because they can't find the source. They can't find the origin. But even more so than that, if you want to prevent gun violence, this is just me, and then we're going to take a break, then we need to change thinking. We need to change how people think. We need to have some mediation. We need to learn how to resolve conflict within a peaceful, constructive manner. Like, we need to change some things. All right, we got to take another quick pause. Stay with me. We got more to talk about here on The Culture on the Black Star Network. Peace, I'm Farajii Muhammad, host of The Culture. And brothers, we need to talk. There's been much discussion about the state of the black man in our community, whether it's in politics, education, or in the home. My brothers, we are struggling to lead the way, which is why The Culture will be hosting the Black Men Summit, where we'll be redefining and celebrating black manhood. This special series will kick off on the 28th anniversary of the historic Million Man March on Monday, October the 16th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be talking to some of Black America's most prolific, dynamic, thought-provoking black men activists, scholars, and leaders about our role, our power, and our future. So tune in and join the conversation as an online culture crew member for The Culture's Black Men Summit, redefining and celebrating black manhood. Starting Monday, October 16th through Friday, October 20th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time each day, right here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
A lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I want to shift gears because I want to, talk a little bit about something else that we also talking about that's related to the culture. And that is something that I came across. This is a very interesting story. If you're in the state of Alabama, you may have heard this story. But apparently in the state of Alabama, officials there have flagged a book because it is deemed sexually explicit, and all because the author's last name is gay. Yeah, folks, let me share this with you. The author's last name is gay. The book is called Read Me a Story, Stella. And it was listed as potentially sexually explicit, even though it is about two siblings who read and build a fort together. Yeah. The book was written by Marie Louise Gay. There's no sexual content in its pages. And this is a book about brotherhood and sisterhood. But the state of Alabama, they thought that because it said the word gay on the cover and that they should flag the book. Now, here's what they have essentially said, though. Cindy Hewitt, who serves as the executive director of the Huntsville, Madison County Public Library, she indicated that this was a mistake due to the author's surname triggering the system. Yeah, that's what Miss Hewitt said. I'm looking at the bottom there. She said that obviously we're not going to touch that book for any reason. So here's the thing, though. They're not going to remove this particular book now that they came out, and because it sounds ludicrous to remove a book because the word gay pops up. My thing is, it's not just about this issue. It's really just also about the fact that they actually have some type of system within the public library that is triggered by certain terms. That's the thing that gets me. When I read this story, folks, I was thinking to myself, like, wait a minute, okay, so you're going to ban this book because it said the word gay. But then when it said that this was a mistake due to the author's surname triggering the system. So now the system is homophobic, right? Like, what kind of system, what kind of algorithm is put into place where you're like, oh, okay, let me put up a couple of the keywords: gay, queer, bisexual, same sex. Now you're creating a system around this. Now, again, even though Ms. Hewitt made the point, like, look, this was a mistake, But can you imagine if there's a system to trigger around certain words like gay? My conspiracy thinking self starts to think like, is there a system to trigger things where it says black or maybe African American or Black history? Like, who would create a system for the public library? Now, the fact that it is a part of the public library is the other thing. Because if it's a part of the public library, shouldn't the public library really be a space where all books are held are available to folks? I mean, shouldn't that be the safest space for books? But now we're in a space where even the library gets filtered. We're in a time where even the library gets censored enough that the library starts censoring certain things that would trigger the system because of a key word. Now, I remember, when you're on social media, some of us truly believe that social media is written and is created based on an algorithm that some would say, and I've read this about Blacks in tech, that some would say has racist overtones or they have racist leanings, that this is part of the systems that we're a part of, right? Social media, you may find that, or in some other system. But I think that's the bigger problem. I think that when you're looking at a library system that is supposed to basically share all these different types of literary works and all of these books around, a number of different topics and issues, that is the safe space, that you're not forcing people to read a book, you're giving them the choice. And I think that's really the scary part about this, is that now the library system, whether it's in Alabama or any other state, feels like, you know what, we can't even give the choice to people, because if we give people a choice, they're not going to choose according or the way we want them to choose. Therefore, we're going to ban certain books. We're going to ban certain materials. Brother Damon, you said stupid, right, Farajii. Yes, it is beyond stupid, to say the least. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Black Hebrew masqueraders, you said, wait, her name is stupid? Wow, no, her name is gay. Her name is Marie Louise Gay. And because her name had the word gay in it, the system for the public library was triggered and saying that this book is sexually explicit. Take a look. The book is not even about sex, folks. See, this is where the cultural sensitivity thing comes into play. If we're that sensitive that we can't even say certain words, what is going on with the culture? We can't say certain words. We can't print certain words. What is going on with the culture? And I'm going back to my original point. Suppose you had a book that said black. Even if your name is such and such black, or African American, or Black history, does that mean that we trigger the system just simply because of how we identify ourselves? Let's go here. Let's go to Cindy D. You said the library system should be as universal as the card catalog. Cindy D, you going back, way back, okay? You go way back. The card catalog at the library, do they still even have them at the library? They probably do just for show. I remember learning about the card catalog too, going way back, but I bet you everything is digitized. So I doubt if that card catalog is there, as we used to remember, where they had to pull out the cards and then you walking around looking. No, you just pull it up in the computer. But you're right. I think you're making an excellent point. It should be as universal as that. And this is the concerning part about these cultural discussions around language, around history, around identity, and around, I mean, all of this. This is the slippery slope. Because if you start going down and say, oh, okay, we can't say gay, then there are a lot of people in this country whose last name is Gay, right? Then then what's going to happen? They start to get censored. They start to be ostracized. They start to trigger the system. And this is very, very concerning. Deidre, you said, I'm sorry about that. What I was trying to say is that they should not ban her book in Alabama just because of her last name. Well, they decided they're not going to remove the book, Deidre. That it was a glitch in the matrix when it comes to this because of her last name. But it's still very concerning. Thank you for checking in, Deidre. Real Brooklyn, my God, good connect with you, Real Brooklyn. You said, I guess we should start banning Christmas songs. I think a Christmas song has the word gay in it, doesn't it? Yeah, probably. I forgot which one it is, but I'm very sure that you're right on point with that one, Real Brooklyn. I forgot which Christmas song it is, but you can't say it. Imagine, just walk with me, and then we're going to take another pause. Imagine a system that's like, oh, you can't say Jesus. You can't say Allah. You can't say Jew. Imagine somebody creating an algorithm like that, that if a book it says Jew or Jewish is deemed anti-Semitic. And it could be by a Jewish author. You see the slippery slope that could potentially happen? Cindy, you said that Farajii, the library system is computerized right now. Yeah, I figured it would be. It's just too many books, and nobody has time for the card catalog, Cindy. Nobody got no time for no card catalog. Arlene, checking in. Arlene Starks, you said fear with his birth due to lack of common sense or just basic ignorance. I love that. Fear, Arlene. I think you're right on point. I think fear is the driving force for a lot of the policies, quote unquote, a lot of the developments of certain systems. We are so afraid of what is different from us, right? We are so afraid of the things that we don't understand. So we take a stance that if we don't understand it, it must be bad. If we don't understand it, it can't be, it must be a problem. We are just so afraid. And fear is the driving force, I think, for a lot of policies in this country. And I know fear is the driving force for a lot of the cultural conversations that we're having. So, Arlene, thank you so much for checking in. Laura, you said if I were the book author of the book, I would sue them. I mean, yeah, you could definitely for something, I'm sure. For something, but it's just a simple fact. Again, they're not going to take the book off the shelves. They're not banning the book, but they just recognize they say they caught the mistake before it went too far. I hear you. Millie Wilcox, you said, OMG, please don't tell me Marvin Gaye's sexual healing song will be banned also, laughing emoji. Well, they're spelling Marvin Gaye is spelled with an E, like you pointed out, Millie. So the system may not pick up on that. Janelle, you checked in and said last fall, the American Library Association reported 330 plus reports of book challenges, and each of those had multiple books. The keyword search is definitely driven by stupid humans. Yeah, how about that? 330 plus reports of book challenges? Wow. Wow. And each of those had multiple books. Wow. It's getting to be very dystopian, folks. It's giving dystopia. When you're talking about you can't have certain words on pages, now it's like, nope, you can't even have certain words on a page. What kind of America are we turning into? You can't even have certain words on pages that it becomes a red flag in the library system. Dystopia. This is like some Matrix stuff right here. This is crazy. Again, they're not going to take it off the shelf, but just simply the fact that they have a system to track this type of language or this word or these words, not feeling it at all. All right, look, I got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's switch gears. We're going to be checking in with my sister Corinna and Denise. Speaking of language, let's talk about how a group of doctors, folks, has officially come out to condemn and denounce a term that is often used to justify excessive force by police officers. We're going to check in with Corinna and Denise about this and the impact that it has. Also, later on, we're going to be checking in with the director of the movie Women of the Jury as we talk about Black women in film and more importantly, Black women in the legal space and so much more. So stay with us. It's coming at you on the other half of the culture right here on the Black Star Network. Peace, I'm Farajii Muhammad, host of The Culture. And brothers, we need to talk. There's been much discussion about the state of the Black man in our community, whether it's in politics, education, or in the home. My brothers, we are struggling to lead the way, which is why The Culture will be hosting the Black Men Summit, where we'll be redefining and celebrating Black manhood. This special series will kick off on the 28th anniversary of the historic Million Man March on Monday, October the 16th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be talking to some of Black America's most prolific, dynamic, thought-provoking Black men activists, scholars, and leaders about our role, our power, and our future. So tune in and join the conversation as an online culture crew member for the Culture's Black Men Summit, redefining and celebrating Black manhood. Starting Monday, October 16th through Friday, October 20th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time each day, right here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for checking in and being a part of the conversation. I absolutely love The Culture. I love y'all, man. Seriously, y'all are funny, man. Y'all are funny. If you haven't had a chance to join us, make sure you do so. Just check us out on YouTube under Roland Martin on YouTube and join the fantastic, one-of-a-kind culture crew that is just always brings something to the conversation. Always, always, always. So thank you so much, crew, for y'all riding with me and being part of this process every day. All right, let me check in with my one of our great culture crew members, Corinna Denise. She checks out with me every Friday here on the show. Corinna, good afternoon. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Hey, Corinna, you got that money green on right now. What's
you know what I'm saying? Hopefully it brings some luck, right? Rain on me, you know. Let's hope, you know. I'm glad you find that amusing.
Of course I do. Of course I do. I have a sense of humor. Of course I do. So let's talk a little bit about this situation around the this very, very important term that people may not even know about, which is this situation about police that has justified police brutality. Let's talk a little bit about this. This is a story about a group of doctors who have denounced the term excited delirium. Folks, some of you may have heard this term. It's interesting. I've never heard this term used to describe any type of police brutality case, but I guess this is a term that's often used in the trial. Probably in the trial or in the defense of police brutality. But this is a term that doctors have coined back in 2009. So this has been some time, and it has won a go-to term to really justify excessive force by police, especially when arresting or taking in custody an individual who may be considered to be, a resisting arrest. So here's what this came from NBC News. This is coming from them about this situation, that a leading doctors group on yesterday formally withdrew its approval of a 2009 paper on excited delirium, a document that critics say have been used to justify excessive force by police. It also says the American College of Emergency Physicians, in a statement, called the paper outdated and said the term excited delirium should not be used by members who testify in civil or criminal cases. The group's directors voted on the matter Thursday in Philadelphia. Take a look at this, and I want to throw this out there and then get your take on this very quickly, Corinna. This is coming from Dr. Brooks Walsh. He said, this means if someone dies while being restrained in custody, people can't point to quote unquote excited delirium as the reason and can't point to ACEP's endorsement of the concept to bolster their case. Dr. Brooks Walsh, he's a Connecticut emergency doctor who pushed the organization to strengthen its stance. Earlier this week, California became the first state to bar the use of excited delirium and related terms as a cause of death in autopsies. The legislation signed Sunday by Governor Gavin Newsom also prohibits police officers from using it in reports to describe people's behavior. In March, the National Association of Medical Examiners took a stand against the term, saying it should not be listed as a cause of death. Other medical groups, including the American Medical Association, had previously rejected excited delirium as a diagnosis. Critics have called it unscientific and rooted in racism. What?
Man, I feel like I'm just always so on the defense. Like, I really had to read the article twice to really make sure I was understanding it. I'm like, now what now? No. So the gist of it is, I want to say this is good that Governor Gavin Newsom signed this legislation. It seems like your state, Farajii, is very much progressive.
Move here. Just move here, Corinna. If you just say, you're going to move to California. Come on.
Consider some things, But it's interesting too how they define excited delirium, right? So I just want to reference something from the article that was just up on the screen. Basically excitement, bizarre behavior. How we're always sort of defined to have like this superhuman strength as Black folks. So they framed it, in this nice phrase, excited delirium. But yeah, it's just I wasn't familiar with the term either. But I think this is a good thing that the doctors withdrew their paperwork. I guess basically, they're pointing out that this is wrong. You can't justify, and a person's death should not be justified, from their behavior, right? More often than not, we see on camera, right, the excessive force used by police officers, but they try to justify it by saying, oh, he was so strong, and they have a high pain tolerance. And it just made me think of all these things in other areas that come to mind, like even with a lot of women, like we know, like Black maternal health is a big deal, where a lot of Black women are dying in childbirth. They're not being heard. They're not being listened to in the hospital. They assume that our pain tolerance is just unlike any other human being, that we can just tolerate pain and they don't listen to us. So it just brought up all of those things for me, Farajii. Why would this even be something that they would define as such, right? And even to justify innocently killing people, human beings, but they don't always see us as such. So there it is.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. The big thing is, when we talk about police brutality cases, right, Corinna, when we talk about any of these social issues, it'd be like the smallest things like this, little language, little verbiage. It's the smallest thing that can make a big, big difference, right? And, that's why I wanted to bring this to the forefront of people's minds, to really look at this and be like, you know what? It may not be, we still talk about the Justice for Policing Act, but the Justice for Policing Act has nothing to do. If we talk about qualified immunity, another term that has just gotten its mainstream appeal, but it's like certain language, the smallest things, y'all see my daughter, the smallest things in this situation, and it's like, it makes a world of difference. If you're talking about removing a term like this, then that means you're slowly start to break down, this justification, this level of brutality. But it's a small thing, and that's why I always put so much. We can't overlook the power of words and language in this day and time. It makes a world of difference.
I would imagine there's going to be a lot of pushback too. It's coming, right?
Of course.
When there's one state that's, a lot more progressive and forward moving, there's going to be someone else who's going to come into the mix and be like, no, it's justified, So I think we can definitely anticipate that. Not sure from whom, but we can probably have a few good guesses, right? Like Florida, Texas. I could imagine like these things are going to come up, and maybe even in those states where we've had these high profile cases in the last few years.
But only if we knew, if once we know, and which is why we having this conversation, if we know about the small things. And this is also, I think, and I'm going to take a quick pause after this, for those of us who work in the legal field, the law enforcement field, and I'm talking about Black folks. Tell us about certain stuff like this. You see what I'm saying? Don't give us the talking points of the mainstream part of the conversation. Get to the root of the conversation and say, you know what? Here's another, a little something that we can take out to start to make the foundation of police brutality a little bit shaky. I want to hear stuff like this. Yes, all of these, the little things, man. Like if somebody is a lawyer or they've been a police officer or they worked in the law enforcement field, I want you to be like, you know what? There's this term that justifies that police use, and so it essentially makes Black victims go crazy. That's what we're talking about. Excited, delirious state of mind, right? So it justifies somebody getting beat. It justifies somebody getting shot.
It'd be interesting to see, but how likely? How would this be defined for, let's say, if it was one of our white counterparts, right? But then again, how often do we even see that happen? But if it did, would this come up, or what terms are they using, right? I think it definitely should stir something in us for us to raise these questions.
Yeah.
And we do have to become familiar with like the legal jargon, right? A lot of us are not. And it's not that we're all going to be well versed. We do have experts and stuff like that who we can rely on for that information, at least, condense it a little bit for us and just, where we can absorb it more quickly. But it's just so important, especially when we're following maybe like a high profile case or something like that. When these things come up, and they're just saying these fancy legal terms, we don't even know what that means until there's an actual breakdown. But just hearing excited delirium, like that's really insulting that you just think that we have a high pain tolerance. Oh, I have bizarre behavior because you're literally cutting off my oxygen and I'm begging for my life. That's what you're defining as the bizarre behavior. So yeah, definitely. I think I'm glad, you're bringing awareness to this today. And I hope it'll be something that'll be more easily seen or for us to spot when we see these cases. Unfortunately, they keep happening, but I definitely think it's something we need to be aware of.
Absolutely. Janelle, you pointed out, you said, Farajii, we have to be sure to inform our community about this. Otherwise, it won't change. Mm-hmm. Back during slavery, they used the term drapetomania to label the enslaved. Janelle, talk to me. What does that mean? I would love, because I've never heard that term being used.
That's some kind of name, don't they?
Janelle will be bringing it, so I ain't gonna. Now look, Lise, can you put up? You posted something. I want you to put this up, and I know we got to take a quick pause. I want to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's go back to this part of it. Lise, please put this. Let's put up something together so you can share what you're sharing with us here about this term, because I think it speaks volumes again. How law enforcement and even how the medical industry look at Black people. To your point, Corinna, we're not seen as human. We're seen, as much as they try to diminish us, emasculate us, on all of these things, we're seen as this kind of like super predator. Mm-hmm. Taking the words from Hillary Clinton, right? We're seen as super predator that must be handled in such a way that it leads to either being severely beaten or outright killed. Look, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, more conversation with Corinna, Denise, and you as we talk about this term that doctors have denounced as being part of the reason why excessive force is justified when police are handling us. It's called excited delirium. We're going to continue to talk about it on the other side. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Peace, I'm Farajii Muhammad, host of The Culture. And brothers, we need to talk. There's been much discussion about the state of the Black man in our community, whether it's in politics, education, or in the home. My brothers, we are struggling to lead the way, which is why The Culture will be hosting the Black Men Summit, where we'll be redefining and celebrating Black manhood. This special series will kick off on the 28th anniversary of the historic Million Man March on Monday, October the 16th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be talking to some of Black America's most prolific, dynamic, thought-provoking Black men activists, scholars, and leaders about our role, our power, and our future. So tune in and join the conversation as an online culture crew member for The Culture's Black Men Summit, redefining and celebrating Black manhood. Starting Monday, October 16th through Friday, October 20th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time each day, right here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Got my sister Corinna Denise, culture crew member, college advisor, activist, joining me as always on Fridays. We're talking about a term that now has been, after 14 years for being used, there are a group of doctors has finally decided to denounce the term excited delirium as a term that is used to justify excessive force by police. This decision was made yesterday by a group of doctors in Philadelphia, and it took them 14 years. It's based on a 2009 paper where it talked about how when certain folks are in police custody that they would exhibit this type of behavior. And so we've been talking about the importance of this. And now Lisa and Chris, Maddie, excuse me, let me know when we can post what this actually means in terms of how the medical community has used this. And I'm sure, Corinna, that as we mentioned earlier, this term is probably more often used in cases involving black men and black women than it is versus white men and white women. We probably know that.
Safe assumption.
Yeah.
Very
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Let me let's throw this term up here. Take a look at this, folks. This is what excited delirium, how it's defined. It's also known as agitated delirium, or AGDS, or hyperactive delirium syndrome with severe agitation. It's a controversial pseudo-scientific diagnosis, sometimes characterized as a potentially fatal state of extreme agitation and delirium. It is typically diagnosed post-mortem in young adult males, disproportionately black men, who were physically restrained at the time of death, most often by law enforcement personnel. Symptoms are said to include aggressive behavior, extreme physical strength, and hyperthermia, which means an excessive rise of body heat. Aggressive, rise in body heat, extreme agitation. When the culture shows black men and black women already like that, and then you have a group of doctors who say this is a real condition, quote unquote. This is what is at the root cause of why the police had to use excessive force. When the culture and you have, quote unquote, those voices of authority saying, yes, this is the situation, what's the likelihood? You know what I'm saying, Corinna? What's the likelihood somebody's going to say, I don't think that's right? That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
It's interesting how they justify the death, but, you know, if we're in pain, just to tap back into the Black maternal health piece quickly, you know, that's questionable. You know, they're suspicious of that. They don't believe you. Oh, it's just this, you know, but when it comes to the excessive force, you're justifying essentially a human being, okay, being killed under your watch because of your excessive force, and then turn around and say, you know, well, it's because of your bizarre behavior, because of your superhuman strength, you know, because of your resistance. And it's just so insulting that was even a thing, right? That they actually framed it, Farajii, and it's like in a court of law, they're saying due to excited delirium, this is why this person died in our custody. As if
and crazy
of the accountability, right, of the death.
And the crazy part about it is we may be experiencing those quote unquote symptoms because of our history,
right,
and because of our ongoing experience with police. Like when the police pull up behind me, I notice certain things change in my body. You see what I'm saying? Because you don't know how the situation is going to play out.
Oh yeah,
right?
My spidey senses go up. I'm just like,
please,
I'm like, where are you at? Where's my phone? Like immediately.
I'm trying to stay calm and look around and keep my head on a swivel all at the same time. You feel what I'm saying? Like if a police is coming on my left side with on my driver's side, I'm keeping my eyes out on the right side because I'm seeing 2 or 3 other cops. You know what I'm saying? Like looking and peering into the windows and stuff. So and then all of the whole situation, the talk from the police department, you got somebody else checking in your phone. It's going to create this fear and this anxiety and all of this stuff that's going to happen. Now, our sister Janelle, she checked in while great, culture crew member. She pointed out drapetomania, which she said was a runaway slave was considered crazy for wanting to abscond from service. Drapetomania was the term planters and overseers used to explain the mania behind the idea that the enslaved wanted to be free. See, this is the power of language and culture. The power is that they put certain terms out and to use it against us. It's like, I think what's the psychological term, the popular psychological term when somebody tries to, the gaslighting, or is it, it's a term where people, here you have a natural desire, but somebody make it seem like you're crazy simply for having a natural desire to do something.
It could be gaslighting.
It could be, but they created a whole term around just the natural desire to want to be liberated. And so back then, all the way up until this present day, right? Look at how language has been used against us as Black folks in this country, that if we wanted to change our condition in some way, shape, or form, if we wanted to get out, people would, y'all crazy.
Oh, you guys want to read? You're crazy, because they didn't see us as human. It's in the documents, 3/5 of a human being. You are only here to serve. Period.
And that's the thing.
So that's why they could frame all these terms. And it's just like, wow. Like, and then it's like, almost like excited delirium is almost like the remix.
Right. Absolutely. And look, the thing is that as we close this out, it needs to be addressed. And again, I'm the type of guy that's like, yes, let's talk about the big policy things, but then there are low-hanging fruit like this one. And I'm glad that you have some doctors that say, you know what, this isn't right. This term has been used in legal and medical spaces for the past 14 years since 2009. So I'm glad that some doctors have had some level of consciousness to be like, we can't keep using this to justify what's going on, because it may create the domino effect of where police officers are held responsible as individuals for police brutality cases. Again, going back to the term qualified immunity. A lot of us didn't even know what that was until recently, right? Until George Floyd and until all of these police killings. So we do have to do our research, and more importantly, making sure that we can attack those low-hanging fruits to say, you know what, if we can't get the big victories, let's try to get some small wins. Let's change the language. Let's call to account that, and this just goes to show you that the issue of police brutality is a wide-ranging issue. It starts with police, but it includes the medical coroner, it includes the medical doctor, it includes the prosecutor, it includes the defense attorney, right? It's a whole system of structural violence against Black men and Black women.
And you know what, Farajii? I'm really glad that the doctors took a stand, because I could imagine how they're threatened behind the scenes with a lot of things, right? Like we see that happening as we speak right now with the overturning of Roe v. Wade and a lot of states across the country, doctors having to consult with their attorney while a woman is bleeding out from, you know, an unviable pregnancy. And, you know, they feel threatened, like, can I even treat my patient? But these doctors, you know, to me, that speaks that they have some, like you said, consciousness, a level of integrity to take a stand and say this. And I can't imagine that was easy. And I can only imagine the backlash that they're getting from that behind the scenes that we might not be privy to. So to your point, it is the little things. This does count, and hopefully the little things snowball into bigger change, which we need.
Absolutely. Real Brooklyn, my guy, you say y'all know these terms come from doctors and from lawyers and scholars. These didn't come from regular Joes that are cops or even some politicians. Laws are written in a manner that only a certain few can understand. Oh my gosh, bro.
It's very true.
That is super true. Super, super true. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's switch gears. Let's talk about Women of the Jury, the new Peacock film that's going to be airing this weekend. And we're going to be checking in with the director of the film to get the latest about that. So stay with us. The conversation continues on the other side, right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network. Peace, I'm Farajii Muhammad, host of The Culture. And brothers, we need to talk. There's been much discussion about the state of the Black man in our community, whether it's in politics, education, or in the home. My brothers, we are struggling to lead the way, which is why The Culture will be hosting the Black Men Summit, where we'll be redefining and celebrating Black manhood. This special series will kick off on the 28th anniversary of the historic Million Man March on Monday, October the 16th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be talking to some of Black America's most prolific, dynamic, thought-provoking Black men activists, scholars, and leaders about our role, our power, and our future. So tune in and join the conversation as an online culture crew member for The Culture's Black Men Summit, redefining and celebrating Black manhood. Starting Monday, October 16th through Friday, October 20th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time each day, right here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Got my sister, Corinna Denise, joining me as she does on Friday. And it's interesting, Corinna, we've been talking about this term, excited delirium. Now all types of terms, Danelle and others have been sharing different terms that have been used, medical terms and more, I think more medical terms to describe us. And I'm wondering, as an educator, what does this really do? You know, what does this mean, right? Like, even within your field of education, right, there are certain terms to describe a student's state of mind. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We use certain language nowadays to say that, you know, like they need an individualized plan, IEP, and all of that stuff. Does this either help, or do you find that it helps or it hinders the students' view of themselves and their ability to learn something? And I'm wondering, and I'm saying that in the same perspective, do you think that these terms are helpful, or does it hinder us from getting to the space that we need to be?
I think they can only hinder us depending in the manner in which they're used. You know, if it's used in a derogatory way or inappropriate way, or it's not being clearly defined, especially for younger children who might not actually understand what that means. Or, you know, if it's not being explained to let them know, like, this doesn't mean this is in no way a limitation, you know, you just have, you know, another need or something. But yeah, I think it's just the manner in which it is used. Fortunately for me, I haven't had too much experience where I've been in an environment where it has been negatively used, but I have heard stories from other educators, unfortunately, and that is very sad. But yeah, it should never be looked at as a limitation for a child. You know, just speaking to what you just mentioned, like the individual exception plan, IEP, for students, or sometimes you have 504 students. You know, their needs are just different and unique. And I think if you frame it that way, in a positive way, then it's not something that could be a hindrance. You know what I mean? Just needs to be clearly defined and understood what it means for that particular child. You know, everyone has their needs, and that looks different for everyone, right?
Right.
But it doesn't mean that it's negative. But I think when we turn around and frame it as a negative thing, then that's when the damage is done. That's when it's a disadvantage, especially for children.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think that should be an important part of this discussion, right? The important part of it is, even with us in the Black community, we use certain language to try to categorize, certain groups of us, right? We use certain language, we use certain labels, and going back to my point about the importance of language, and especially when you're talking about in a given culture, it can either build you up or break you down. It can either, it can become this thing to define you, or it can become this barrier to confine you, right? So it's like we have to be very, very, what's the best way I can say it? We have to be just very cognizant about the language that we use. And here's another point. We cannot take on the language of those who have traditionally and historically oppressed us, right? Once we start going down that road, then it becomes the slippery slope. Then we can be found guilty of perpetuating a certain mindset.
There's two things we have perpetuated, and something came into mind. But I swear, I always come up with something that could be a whole nother conversation for another day.
You
right?
always do. Go ahead.
But I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, like, to each his own. But when you said it, we can't use the language of our oppressors. There's something that we genuinely like to use in a very friendly manner. I think
the N-word.
We're intelligent enough to know that's what I'm speaking to, and we just run away with it and say, "Oh, we just took it and made it our own." And there are several other things, we could go on and on. But like I said, that's a conversation for another day. But, I think it's something to raise our consciousness to why do we even do that? Outside of the fact that this is something we've always done per se. Personally, me, I don't use it. I don't like to use it. But I'm not really looking down on anyone else who does. But a lot of the time, I don't know if we all really, truly understand perhaps why we shouldn't. And, just us as a people, something that has, generations of pain behind that. How did we take that and frame it as something great?
Well, I think
we ignore all the great things that we did create. You know what I mean?
Because I think that it's interesting, because I feel like we are so comfortable, like we have this. It's like it's an emotional attachment to words, right? And it's like we're so comfortable, and it's like, oh, it hasn't really done anything. But I think that we have diminished the power of words and the impact that it has on our minds. And so that's the part about this whole process that we're in an age where people are talking about energy work, mindfulness. People are becoming much more spiritual and not necessarily involved in organized religion. But then we're taking in messages that are demeaning, diminishing messages, using language that degrade us, right?
Yeah.
So somewhere along the line, we have to ask ourselves, are we becoming the hindrance to our own progress, right? Because we have accepted a certain language, we are using a certain language, we have encoded within our thinking a certain language, right? And the view of ourselves based on that language, to the point where it becomes something else.
And I know I opened Pandora's box, but I just want to say, I'm not looking down on anyone who does use it. Usually I raise questions like, do you understand what this really means? Like, and I'm sure a lot of us are privy to the history behind it. But I don't know if we've really had that deep thought, right, as to why did we start using this? Like to your point, like with words, we kind of just start taking them for granted, and we hear it all the time. So then we kind of embed it in our own languages, right? So I think it's just something to raise our consciousness, and not just with the N-word, but many other things, right? that we just take in, whether it's something in our daily routine or culturally, or the things that we watch or engage in, or like fashion trends and things of that nature. There's so many things. And it's so funny that we do that, because we then ignore all of our great history that's already being suppressed, that is already being taken away from us and challenged, that they want to keep hidden. So yeah. I just think that, we just need to be a little bit more conscious of that, to not perpetuate these cycles, because while it might be a term of endearment to some, it's almost like we're really kind of like still oppressing each other, in my view.
And look, Sean pointed out, Sean Ryan, you said every ethnic group has its own language / slang. And I agree with that. I wholeheartedly agree with that. How many other ethnic groups have language that is the language of their oppressor?
Wow. And there it is.
How many other ethnic groups have language that speaks death on their own people? Like if I'm speaking death to my sister, speaking death to my brother, right? That speaks ill of my, how many other, it's one thing to be like, my man, that's my guy. That's one thing, that's slang. When you're using the N-word, and we're talking about the N-word right now, but there's other language, other terms that we can certainly bring into this. So when you're using N-words, right? Or the B word, when I hear Black women say, yeah, that's my B, whatever the case may be, this is language that is not just slang. This is that you're taking on the form of your oppressor in your own skin form, in your own skin. And we got to ask that question, like, how many other groups of people do that? How many other groups of people listen to music that degrades themselves? I mean, big conversation, ongoing discussion. We've been having it since hip hop has been around. Yeah. But we do have to ask ourselves, if we're talking about all this progress, and we're only making incremental gains, can we start to look at ourselves, the language that we use, the information that we consume, the content?
Self-reflection.
We do have to, like, if we're talking about 50 years of hip hop, it's a great culture. You and I grew up in it. We love it, right? But at the end of the day, is it holding us back? Even though people get money from it, you got millionaires and billionaires coming out of it. But at the end of the day, as a collective, does it hold us back because of its intrinsic destructive nature to our thoughts, to our minds, to our spirits, to our hearts?
Wow.
Come on, man. I mean, I'm just asking.
Questions, man. That's very deep, provoking thought right there. Yeah.
I don't know. Hey, look, we gotta close it out. We didn't get a chance to connect with our brother, Mr. Buddington, about women of the jury. I'm gonna make sure that we do our due diligence, get them back on, or try to get them on. But this is part of the conversation that we have, that we are gonna have to have next week. And Corinna, I know that I'm gonna bring you back next week for the first hour of the show, of course. First half, and see if we can work that out. But this is the question that we're going to have with other Black men. I got next week, folks. I'm gonna just tell y'all right now. I got a number of people. I got a number of people that's joining me next week. We're going to be kicking off the conversation, talking about the spirit. We're going to have Black men in faith and spirituality. Wow. We got to do that because the October 16th is actually the day of the 28th anniversary of the Great Million Man March. If you remember that day, it was on that day that the call for atonement, reconciliation, responsibility was the call. Atonement, recreation, and atonement, responsibility, taking control of your life, right? Spiritually, it was a spiritual call. It was a spiritual demonstration. So we're going to be checking in with Pastor Jamal Bryant. We're going to have Imam Abdul Salam from Baltimore, who's the Baltimore representative for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I got spiritual healer Zentola is going to be joining us. So that's going to be next week. We're starting off on Monday. I got Dr. Steve Perry that's going to be joining us in the week. We're going to have Dr. David Miller, Dr. Ray Winbush. We're going to have a lineup.
I just want to commend you. I think it's such a great idea, the Black Men Summit. So I look forward to tuning in and seeing all the guests and seeing how all the great things that you have in store for our Black men. And I just gonna put a little plug in there.
I know what you're about to say, Coretta.
I have something for the ladies, right? The Black women who hold the Black men down. So I just have to put that out there. But yeah, we have to make sure our men are spiritually in tune and have themselves together. And that's just what I love so much about this network, what we're doing, controlling our narrative and pouring into us so that we can pour into others and us as a people to move us forward. So yeah.
It's gonna be dope, and it's gonna be 5 days of us talking about Black men in faith, Black men in politics, Black men in education, Black men in mass media, and then we're going to end the week talking about Black men in family and community life.
And we need more Black men in education.
Oh, that's why we got Dr. Steve Perry.
Black men who are teachers. Our young Black men, our young Black boys, they need to see seasoned, experienced men, right? As role models. And, working in schools, I haven't really seen that too much anymore. They're few and far in between. A lot of teachers are probably just a few years older than these students, which, and especially I want to say, Farajii, especially with high school students, they need to have a seasoned educator, someone who can demonstrate, life and, what it's supposed to be. And, with parents, I'm not a parent yet, but just being an educator, I've seen, you are not your child's only influence. So you want to make sure the people who are pouring into your children every day as educators, right, as mentors, that they also come seasoned with experience and want to pour into your children as well, because it does take a village. So yeah, that's going to be a great seminar right there with the Black educators for men, because we definitely need some more brothers in education.
Oh my gosh, 2%, Coretta.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
2%, absolutely. Only 2% of those who teach are actually Black men in the school systems and across the country. 2% are Black men. Most teachers, as you already know, are white women.
Yeah.
And so it speaks volumes about where we need to make some changes at. My sister Corinna Denise, I can't wait to reconnect with you very soon. But yes, next week it should be a powerful, powerful week by the grace of the Almighty God. And we will have these conversations, folks, and trust and believe you don't want to miss one word. These folks, these brothers that I have coming on are going to be dynamic. They're going to be thought-provoking. They're going to share so much. So stay with us. All right, that's going to happen next week. As always, make sure y'all do your due diligence. Support us here on The Culture. Support us here on the Black Star Network. I would love to connect with y'all. Follow us on social media. And as all importantly, never forget, I'm sorry, let me get that straight, folks. Never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered with RMU at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great weekend. Peace.